Call the meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first item on the agenda is to approve the agenda. There are, I understand, some changes.
I don't know, what are the changes?
Okay. Mr. Scanlon has canceled his 6 o'clock appointment. That was simply a matter that one attorney thought that they had to bring that Crooked Creek watershed property matter to the board, and the attorneys got working it over and decided, no, we really don't need to, and so they just canceled it.
Okay,
And I think that's the only change.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with that one change.
Second?
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried. Approval of the minutes is next.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes, they look good.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Are there any additions or corrections? Okay. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried. The next item on the agenda is the opening public comment, and we're wondering if anyone has a public comment that they would like to share with us at the beginning of the meeting. Some people are looking around at each other wondering about this now. How many people are there? Put your hands up a ways that are going to want to do that. Okay. With this number of people here, one never really knows, and so then you sort of, if there's like a dozen, why then we have to do something about the time. But I saw just 2 hands, and so fine, that'll be fine. Which one of you wants to be first?
I don't have much time for that one. No. Toad.
Evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Dewey, Yucatan Township.
John Dewey, Yucatan Township. And the DNR is buying some more land in our township, and I'm getting a lot of static from taxpayers. I'm a supervisor with the township. And right now, we have 27,456 acres, and the township, or the DNR, owns 3,783 plus acres of that, which comes up to a little over, almost 14% of our township. And the problem being is people are saying the DNR just isn't paying enough of their share. The average taxpayer, when we divide our levy into our acres of land, the average taxpayer is paying about $4.90 an acre. The DNR supposedly this year will be paying $2 an acre, but the county gets 90% of that, and the township's only getting 10%, which means we're getting about 20 cents an acre for the land. So they're not paying anywhere near their share of our levy to run our township. And so when I do my personal taxes, the county is getting about 69% of what I'm paying, and the township's getting about 31%. So you can see there's a real imbalance there as far as what's going to the township on property taxes versus what the DNR is paying to the townships. And I know that you people can't do anything about it, but I'm just here to bring it out in light in hopes that maybe there's some way you can help support the townships in seeing this issue corrected. Let's see, I've lost my place. But
I thought there was going to be a DNR up here.
While you,
I believe I
while you
got
look, are you done talking about that particular issue and moving on to something else now?
no,
Or are you
that's
still?
I guess about covers what I've got, and then I guess she had some things she
Okay,
wrote.
because I've done a little bit of research on that at the county level, and when I asked 3 separate people here in this building about this in the taxation and financial area, and the first 2 of them told me, well, I don't really know, and I don't really know how to find out. I've never been asked before. And so they referred me, both of them referred me to the same third person, so I went to her. And she said, well, I've never really been asked before how much difference there is between the taxation amount and the PILT amount. And it'll take me a little while to dig that out for you, but I'll get it. And she thought maybe it'd be a day or 2. Well, it was later that afternoon. And what I was told by county personnel was that the amount of money that the township gets or would get on that 132 acres would be between $185 and $190 per year less than the township would get on the taxation amount. Now, one caution there. I was also told that there are times when that PILT money is less percentage-wise, and I was told also that at times the PILT money is actually more than the tax money would have been. It does vary per parcel.
Right.
So I don't know, and I didn't ask overall because this parcel was the parcel that's in question. Okay?
I guess part of the issue that with the DNR, when they buy land, they basically, if there's any dwellings, buildings, et cetera on it, they dispose of them. So they never pay on that. Our tax base relies on the fact that land is being developed
Yeah,
to get our tax
understand.
base. So they automatically are never paying on anything but land. They're never paying on developed land. So that really throws the whole system off as far as, where our tax base comes from. Because if the land is being taken out of any type of development, it's never going to be taxed for anything but land. Whereas if somebody would have bought that land, an individual, they'd build a house on it, they'd build a shed on it, they'd build a barn on it, etc., and that would increase its value. DNR land will never increase other than by, the
Yeah.
general land increases that
Yeah,
occur over
understand
the
that.
years.
And philosophically, personally, I have a real problem sometimes with government owning more land than I think they ought to be owning, but
Well,
we're just
that's another
we're just
issue. People
dealing
say
with
they're
we're
not
just
taking-
dealing with one individual parcel here, and so that's all we can do.
Right.
And it gets, as far as you said it, we really can't, as a board, we really can't do anything about it. I asked the zoning officer to check into it and see if there was any proposal to change what the land was going to be used for, which is the only way that we can really get a handle on it. And he said no, and so we're out of it there. The only thing I can say is that people like Greg Davids and Jeremy Miller need to hear from you. And Mr. Davids
Well, I
is
think
chair
they're going
of
to
the
hear
House.
from us.
Mr. Davids is chair of the House Taxation Committee. So that would kind of be my first place to go.
I have from the Minnesota Department of Revenue, the payments by the Department of Revenue to counties are to be made July 20th, 2018, at the same time as the payment of the first half installment of county program aid to the counties. The counties must distribute any township, city, and school PILT payments within 30 days of this date or by August 19th, 2018. We generally don't get that until in November, and if I'm a day late paying my taxes, I have to pay a delinquency fee. DNR doesn't pay any delinquency fees that we can see anywhere on the records.
Historically, my understanding of this is, I've obviously done some checking on it, my understanding of this is that historically we have paid the PILT payments to the townships on the November settlement date. That's been forever, apparently. Then in 2012, the state apparently changed that. For some reason, this county didn't react to that. We simply, whoever got the notice, either filed it without reading it or didn't understand what it meant or chose to ignore it or whatever. But we didn't follow through on it. And we knew absolutely nothing about it until, I believe it was you, brought it to the attention of the auditor sometime in August, if I remember right. Well, the record of that, legislation or regulation or whatever, the record of that from 2012 is no longer in that office. And so one of our people had to get a hold of the right people at the state and recreate that situation so that we could look at it and apply it and everything we could do. And my understanding is that that payment, that PILT payment, will come to the townships hopefully yet this week.
Okay, thank you. Glad to know you're working to correct that.
Best we can do.
Yep.
And sorry about that. We really don't know what happened in 2012 to that piece of paper.
I guess that's it. We got-
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Lapham.
Evening, Commissioners.
Evening.
Evening.
I'm here this evening to request the joint purchase along with 11 other agencies in southeastern Minnesota for the purchase of a 800 megahertz Armor radio analyzer. To give the board and the public a brief overview of what this analyzer will do. Our radios, they have internal crystals inside of each radio, and every approximately 3 years or so, the crystals need to be realigned so the radios continue to function as they should. That process involves one of our deputies, Deputy Brownlee, who is our radio expert, to actually physically touch and analyze and realign every single radio in the county. That's approximately 500 separate radios. It's an extremely, it's a big task.
Time consuming.
Very time consuming. So, the Southeastern Regional Radio Advisory Committee, which, like I said, consists of 11 other law enforcement entities, came up with an idea to purchase together a analyzer, which you can hook up to one of the 5 radio towers throughout Houston County, and you can remotely speak with each radio, and the analyzer will tell you which radios need to be analyzed and realigned without actually have to touch them all. So instead of touching 500, maybe we'll touch 10, maybe we'll touch 15. I can't tell you exactly what it'll be, but it'll be a significant, less time-consuming task to do. So there's the overview. The proposed, there's a payment schedule, or a breakdown, I should say, between the 12, if all 12 entities went in on the purchase, it would be $5,311.32. I propose that we don't go below, we don't spend any more than $6,373.58, which would be if 10 entities go in on the purchase. I think that if it gets much more than that, then we start meeting that line of is it worth it or not, based on employees' time and dollars spent on that. So I ask for the approval of proposed budgeted money for 2019 in no more than the amount of $6,373.58. And then I also ask for a resolution stating that Houston County is willing to go in on the purchase with the other 11 entities in southeastern Minnesota.
What kind of input did you get from the other 12 counties or 12 districts?
So we had verbal commitments from almost every single one of them. So I do believe that it'll be over the 10, which would be the 6,373. I think that every single entity is going to do it. What, Commissioner Miller, what was your take on that?
I'm chair of that group, and it sounded like it was unanimous, at least verbally.
Yes.
When it got back to each county or entity, I'm not, I can't guarantee they all, but the representatives were all supportive.
Yeah.
Because it's, again, just seems to make sense fiscally and time.
Yes.
So is this something that if you are purchasing this, you could do this annually? Because you said it's every so many years these crystals would change. I would assume that some may change this year.
Some may
maybe
change
next year.
faster than others.
Correct.
But right, I mean, what we've been doing since Sheriff Engelett and I have started, we've done it every, let's see, we did it once right away in 2015, and we just completed it again.
Okay.
So yeah, we could do it annually. I don't know if it'd be worth it. For sure, every probably 2 years to make sure that our radios are functioning as it should. Pushing it out to that 3-year mark, you're maybe playing with fire a little bit. And with the acquisition of this piece of equipment, I think we could, we could make sure that we could definitely positively know that our radios are going to be functioning as they should, as long as, along the lines of this issue anyway. So that's my request. And with the safety net of putting a cap on the amount of dollars that Houston County is willing to spend, we don't have to worry about agreeing to something and then all of a sudden only 5 agencies go in on it.
And then is this piece of equipment housed in a certain county then? I mean,
I think it'll be housed in Olmsted County. They have.
so then you just call them and say, hey, go through the radios. And,
We're gonna come get it, and yep.
oh, okay, you'd have to physically get it. They
It'll
can't
get-
do it remotely from
it'll
Olmsted?
get passed from
Okay.
county to
Yep.
county.
And Olmsted County has a dedicated employee just for their radios, and he is verbally committed to helping all of the other entities that go in on this actually in the process of doing it. So we don't have to try and figure out exactly how to run the machine. He's willing to come out and help us with it.
Gotcha.
So that's a
nice.
great asset to have as well.
Pardon?
Oh, yeah, that's true. What about that as far as insurance, traveling, gets in a car wreck and gets destroyed? Do you know if that's covered?
I would think.
I
I would think whoever's county is using it, right? Would their insurance would cover it?
I'm just posing the question of
To my knowledge, I don't believe that's been discussed.
I should be curious if another county uses it and destroys it, and then they say, oh, well,
Yeah.
it should be under this county's insurance,
I
whatever.
don't know if it would be
Yeah.
on our schedule, or we would want to make sure that it's.
So the total purchase price is $63,735. So I don't know what the annual insurance amount on that would be.
Well, we can
Well,
find
I'm-
out. I mean, it's not a,
I'll check with Judy Enderly.
Okay.
Tomorrow.
Well, what county is a physical agent for this group? Olmsted, I'm assuming.
Commissioner Miller, are you sure? Are you aware? I think it is.
It
I think
is.
it is Olmsted County. That's where we always have the meetings in Olmsted County. The organizer of the meetings are Olmsted County.
Yeah, and it's just that the chairmanship revolves by one county per year, and I'll switch to another county. But Olmsted is the
Fiscal
Fiscal
agent.
agent,
They
yeah.
were, yeah.
Yeah. Logically, the insurance coverage would be under the auspices of the
I'll
of the
check with-
host county.
Yeah,
but
I'll check with
you
her
don't know
tomorrow.
that.
and-
That's the way it is with the water, with Southeast Minnesota water thing.
Yeah.
Olmsted County is the host county for our executive secretary, and so that insurance for her is through Olmsted County. The rest of the counties contribute
Yes.
to that position, but Olmsted County is the carrier of that insurance.
So I think even if the insurance was was divided up by 12, it would still be a very minimal amount, and I think it would still be worth it. So for purposes of tonight, I would still ask that you pass the resolution, and Commissioner Miller and myself can get more information, and we can forward that information onto the board at a later date.
Because
Would that work?
is Olmsted County part of MCIT, or are they one of the self-insured? That would be the other.
I thought we talked about that one time and they were self-insured, but we should check on that. So,
I don't know that. I should from the Southeast Minnesota Water Resources Board, but I don't.
well, my guess is I'm
That's
sure it'll
fine.
be covered by whoever, whenever. We just need to clarify how it's gonna be. You know?
Sure, and we'll make sure that the board gets updated on
Yeah.
that via email. Would that be sufficient?
Yeah.
Sure.
Be fine.
Okay. So my request is the approval and a resolution stating so, at or below the specified dollar amount that I already have listed in the resolution.
I would move to approve the purchase based on the information from Travis.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you, commissioners. Have a good night.
Thanks.
Thank
too.
you.
Now, he talked about two things. Does there need to be a second motion, or did we cover that?
I thought it was an inclusive.
Okay, fine. Just making sure. Okay.
Excuse me, Commissioner.
Okay.
Was public discussion ended? Public comments, there was a section for public comments, and I thought there was only a couple people that spoke.
Well, the public comment portion of the meeting is divided, as you can see from your agenda, into two sections. There's public comment at the beginning, and then there is an opportunity also for closing public comment at the end.
Right.
That's all. That's all the opportunity for public comment there is. This is a board business meeting, and we allow time for public comment at the beginning and at the end.
But how much time do you allow? Is it my understanding that you allow 2 minutes per person?
Pardon me?
Is there a limit to how much speaking a person can do? Like, I think it's a couple minutes per
Well,
person?
at the beginning of the meeting this evening, I asked how many people there were that wanted to do public comment. There were only 2 hands that went up. So at that point, I determined that it wasn't really necessary to impose a time limit. If a dozen hands had gone up, then I would have said, okay, it's going to have to be 3 minutes or 4 minutes. That's the chair's discretion by our policy.
Well, I know in the past, at the last meeting, after a person spoke, you did come out and ask, is there any other person who has public comment? And we did have more people that have public comment.
Well, I asked at the beginning of the meeting, 2 hands went up, that's all I saw. Were there other hands that went up that I missed?
I don't know, I had to step out briefly.
I thought I referred to, I thought I said I just saw 2 hands, and the 2 people came up.
That's all I saw.
And then Mr. Miller says that's all he saw.
We weren't quite in yet.
So I'm afraid it's going to have to wait till the end. County Assessor, Cindy.
We have,
Whoops, did I miss something? Oh,
Don Ramsden.
I'm sorry. Yes, Don Ramsden, Jamie Edwards, whichever one is here. I'm sorry, Cindy. I had a senior moment there or something, I guess.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Right.
Don Ramsden, Minnesota DNR, Assistant Manager for the Rochester area. And I cover Fillmore, Houston, Winona counties. And as you know, I'm here for the Stephen Doherty tract, 132 acres. Basically came to ask the board for County Board of Resolution of approval for that acquisition. And it was kind of brought about initially from, there's a couple state threatened species out there, the timber rattlesnake and the tuberous Indian plantain. And there was a couple other spots in Minnesota with this threatened threatened species, the tuberous Indian plantain, that a company had basically in a sense destroyed. So in a sense, it's like if they destroy a wetland, the same thing with the state species, there was a mitigation process. So I don't know the name of the company, but they had contributed a certain amount of money to the EcoWater, basically our non-game program with the division of Minnesota DNR. And so with that and the knowledge of Jamie Edwards, who had used to be part of the non-game program, knew of this tuberous Indian plantain down in the Girl Scout camp area, the Yucatan WMA, and also on the Doherty tract there, it would be a good acquisition project. And I wasn't involved with the discussion with the landowner on this parcel, but there's been an agreement that their negotiations, what they've gone on, and from what I understand, he has agreed upon an appraised price is what's come out there. And it's a parcel that we would like to add to the Division of Wildlife to our Yucatan WMA or the old Girl Scout camp. So that's what I'm here for, to see if we can get county board approval for a resolution to approve to acquire that piece.
I think our initial concern was the township should know about it before it even comes to the county board, and they did not. And that was kind of the essence of why we wanted to hear from you about the procedure of who you notify. Was this a direct sale from the landowner to the DNR? Or was there a middle person?
That
Or
I
don't
couldn't tell
know?
you because I
Okay.
found out I was coming to this board meeting 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
And I didn't know the date till this morning, that I was supposed to be at 5:45. I have dealt very little with this parcel. My supervisor has, Mike Tenney, and he retired on September 4th. So as you can see, either Jamie, who's in supervisor training right now, or myself had to come, and that's me, the person that's coming. So, and typically, yes, that is exactly what we've done, Commissioner Walter, is that typically we prefer to meet with the township first. Like we've acquired some in Fillmore County. We prefer to meet with the township to discuss this acquisition with them, that the state's interested in a parcel of land from a willing landowner, to sell to the state as part of our WMA system that we have, and to ask any questions that they have and concerns at that time. So no, you are absolutely correct.
Okay.
But no, we did not do it at this instance.
Is there a limit to what the DNR can or will purchase? I mean, how extensive can this purchase program be?
Well, it's like all of them, I think, especially in the southeast, there's limited funding. So it'll never be anything like it is up north, a lot of state land. you know, there's just small parcels. We have limited funding and to be able to acquire, whether it's wildlife management or state forest land or what it might be. So the funding is the limited thing, and the other thing comes down to is willing landowners to sell. That's all, willing landowners have probably been the number one reason, well, between that and funding, it just is. So, is there a limit? I guess I've never read anything in our policies or rules or our definitions say, but I guess there's kind of a self-limiting as far as I'm concerned, because you only got so much money and you only got so many willing landowners that would like to sell their parcel of land to have it open for public recreation.
Okay.
And I did not check to see what the landowner has been paying as far as taxes, but I roughly know what the PILT payment would be. So in that PILT payment, my understanding would be, you know, a little over $3,600 that the county would be getting for our PILT payment for the acquisition of that 132 acres.
Now, Larry came in, was it 2 weeks ago now, right? Yeah. And I know you'd mentioned something too about it wasn't necessarily that the township was against the sale, it was more just the tax purposes and getting the money distributed, correct? Or is there more to that?
Myself?
Yeah.
Our biggest concern is the amount of money the townships receive compared to what the average landowner pays. We go to $1.94 an acre, which we receive compared to $5, what a normal person pays is a lot of difference to us for our revenue. That's our biggest concern, you know.
Right.
And I think that could be changed through legislature, I think.
And I know that's been brought up, oh boy, countless times. I know since I've been here, and it just seems like they just don't ever do it. But I know that has been a big issue. And I've talked to Jeremy and Greg Davids about that. And I know it's just, hopefully we can get some push and get something done. But it has been a struggle.
And that part, we really don't have any control over the formula for PILT at this point. But we were concerned with the township knowing about it in advance. That was one of the things that,
Yeah, and getting paid timely.
yes, which will happen now.
Right, right.
Cindy was raising her hand, and then the gentleman in front of her.
Hmm?
I was just telling Fred, Cindy was,
If I could interject a couple things. One is, it's kind of difficult to put a blanket how many dollars per acre the average person pays on their land because of all the variables. Is it a homestead land? Is it up to the cap that the state sets of 1.9 million, or is it over that? Is it agriculture? Is it in Green Acres? There are many factions that come into how much one parcel pays. It changes by ownership. So it's very difficult to determine, is this going to be more or less just on that factor. Another thing I need to maybe mention, I wouldn't be right if I didn't. The state gives what it calls a bundle of rights to landowners. There's 6 bundle of rights. One of those rights is the right to sell. So I'm just giving you that as.
So right now, you're looking for a resolution to accept or to allow the DNR to move forward on this purchase.
Correct.
Oh, I thought it was.
no, I think
there.
we just
Oh,
move forward.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I can make a motion to move forward with
Okay.
the DNR purchase with the idea that you will notify townships in the future.
Correct.
I'd second that.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
I will, I'm going to abstain from this only because of my close relation with the realtor that's involved in this, so.
Okay. Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Cindy.
Good evening, Commissioners. I handed Michelle my work. I'm on a tight schedule tonight, so she's going to hand it back to me. We have 5 abatements. These still stem back from issues that we had earlier this year. I believe you have all 5 in front of you, or not?
No, not without my computer.
Okay, the first one is
It died.
one where the house,
It's dead.
Go ahead, Cindy.
okay, the first one is one where the
We'll solve
house,
our electronic problems
Okay.
here, one way or another.
when the house was built, our appraiser for that area was not timely and doing the appraisals, so the homeowner did not receive their homestead application and was not able to return it under the deadline. Department of Revenue has granted us permission this year to forego the deadline on issues like that because of what we went through last year, or prior to last year. So that is an abatement of $1,014. Okay. The second one is same type of thing, was not receiving, did not get the homestead app in time. Abatement was, oh, I'm sorry, the first one, I stand corrected. The first one was they put the house on, and the house was not built by January 2nd. It was erroneously put on. They get their abatement on the fact that January 2nd, 2017, that house was not there, therefore we could not value it. That was the 1,014. The second one was the homestead app was not delivered to the homeowner in time. That was the one where the appraisals were not being done timely fashion, and that was 1,668. The third one was the new construction was valued as 100% complete. It was only 75% complete on January 2nd, 2017, $580 abatement in their taxes for that error. And the last one was there was a sale, I'm sorry, there was a change in ownerships, a divorce. The way it looked, the person that did this coding took away a Green Acres program when it should not have been taken away. It was in the family for over 7 years. It may have lost homestead, but it still qualified for being in the family for over 7 years. So that was a abatement of $426. The last one is the nursing home in Houston. We had a square footage error. We corrected it and have gone forward. That's a $3,068 abatement. I'm asking that you approve all 5 of these.
Motion to approve the abatements.
Second?
Been moved and seconded to approve the abatements. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you,
Thank
Commissioners.
you, Cindy. You're next.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening.
Just have a very brief agenda items tonight. I wanted to provide the board with an overview or a briefing, if you will, of where we are with our current arbitrations as well as with the facilities update real quickly. On pardon me. On September 6th, we had our first arbitration with LALS 237, that's the deputies unit. Basically, there were 3 issues remaining. The first one was duration of the contract, the second one was field training officer compensation, and the third one was wages. The duration is, we're asking for a 3-year agreement, they're asking for 2. We'll see where that that is settled. One of the reasons we asked for a 3-year contract was because we did settle our lieutenant's agreement, which is another LALS agreement. That agreement is an agreement that is dependent upon the
Bruce, we got to keep the door open. You can just tell him to be quiet out there.
Because of the interrelationship between these contracts, and that one is based on the base salary of another one, the lieutenants is a % above the deputies, our position was, where we left it with the arbitrator, was that we continue with our history of 3-year agreements. The field training officer, this is basically where you have officers in the field doing work with new trainees. Our union position is to receive 1 hour comp time per shift. The county's position on that was to agree to field training officer time, but to do it at an increment of 1/2 hour. And we do have some history of having used the training article under that contract for some field training, and have awarded in 1/2 hour increments, which is where we have what we've done historically. So we're hopeful that that practice will continue. Now, wages. The union's proposal was 3, 3, and 3. This was over 18, 19, and 20, with a market adjustment, if you will, of 1% in 18 and 1% in 19, and if that market adjustment is not granted by the arbitrator, that there would be a market adjustment in 20 of 2%. The county's offer has been 1, 2, and 2. The difference, if you include the field training money, the difference between what the county is looking at and what the county's proposal, as well as compared to the union's proposal, is a difference of $47,383. One of the rationales for that we looked at in the arguments that were made to the arbitrator is on the market adjustment, besides our argument that it's not necessary, that is not reflected in the market. But another one of our arguments is that the impact it would have on our comp worth for our male-dominated fields versus our female-dominated field, and that if there isn't a market adjustment that's warranted in the market, it still comes back to us in our in other ways and pay equity when we make our report. So we made a lot of arguments for the pay equity concerns that we have as well in making this type of, quote, market adjustment. Another argument that had been made was the retention and attraction numbers. We have excellent retention and excellent attraction numbers for our deputies, and so we felt we're in a very strong position that way. Now, the county's rationale on our financial side overall was based on financial reasonableness. This is an argument that has been that goes before arbitrators. It is with precedent that is, I should say, a reasonable argument for us to make, but that is if the factors support it, that is the argument one makes. The factors that we looked at was we compared in Region 10, excluding Olmsted County. We also looked at Region 10 and focused on Dodge, Fillmore, Wabasha, and Freeborn. The factors that were looked at in doing our comparison were our population, in other words, our demographics, basic size of our county, net tax capacity, tax levy comparisons, total revenues. We compared total expenditures, number of households, and as to where we fell in the percentages as compared to what might be described as peer counties, as compared to where our salaries were, and felt that we had strong arguments that way. Briefs are due on the 21st of September by the legal briefs from both sides, and then we should hear sometime shortly thereafter from the arbitrator. LALS Local 60, which is our jailers and our dispatchers, is due to go to arbitration. Our hearing is set for September 27th. So that's our interest-based arbitration for labor. We also held a grievance arbitration on a discipline matter yesterday that we were not able to get through all of the witnesses. We will be continuing that to another date. It is my understanding in general, this is just a, instead of calling it a gentleman's understanding, a lady's understanding, just informally that that our other units are waiting to see the outcome of our arbitration before we set further future dates. It's expected that that's where we would be at.
When will we hear the final?
Well, we haven't held one. Arbitration is not held till the 27th of this month.
27th?
The one we just had, September 6th, the legal briefs are due on the 21st.
Okay.
And then the arbitrator hopefully will decide sometime within that month, but I expect we're hoping within a couple of weeks of that date. And so that's just I don't want to belabor that. That's just to give you some idea. I think you would be very pleased with the representation that you had at the table as far as the economic studies that were presented. On the facility side of the house, as you may or may not know, we did receive, it's been, I guess, about 2 weeks now. We did receive final approval from the Minnesota Department of the Minnesota Historic Society on our reuse study was accepted. The historic courthouse construction documents that were submitted were returned back to us for a little tweaking. They're minor. The firm has agreed to tweak those. It deals with the cleaning of the building and the historic paint colors. I think we can satisfy them in short order, and then we can submit the final and get the 20% retainage that's being withheld. As you may noticed, in this building we have started on some of our facelifts, if you will, internally. Sentence to Serve is working. Craig is working with our maintenance department and through Sentence to Serve, and we have started some repainting of the offices. We have finished, I believe, 104 downstairs. Flooring is due to go in there. I believe I'll confirm this tomorrow, but I was told tentatively the 1st of October. We started on the second floor, and it will be a bit messy. We apologize for all the departments. We're trying to work as closely as we can in meeting their schedules and work around all of their schedules, and we will have it done in fairly short order. And that's the extent of my report tonight, Commissioners. Questions?
With this reuse study, we were approved from the historical perspective.
That
And
aspect
so
of the grant.
What is the next step? kind of?
Well, remember our grant was two parts. So it's the construction documents for this building,
Right.
and that we are finishing up right now. We had our last read on that from the Minnesota Historic Society, and they issued a response back to us that we have to respond to rather recently, and we'll get that back to them. The next step after that would be to, we have all the documentation in place that we need to then apply for a major legacy grant to go forward with the construction work that we hope to do.
Okay.
We needed the construction documents and the reuse study in place. As you may recall, our office had applied for a legacy grant, and we were rather naive in that they wanted a full reuse study and a full construction documents, and we didn't have those, but we were granted the $76,200 to do them.
Do we have a timeline for any of this, or is?
And not at this juncture, I don't. I'd have to look to see when the next round, I know there were some deadlines in July. We obviously did not make those, so we'll be looking at the next one.
Thank you.
Okay, Mrs. Lapham.
Good evening. You received your August finance report. Anything stick out that you saw? Because in looking through it, we are basically at the mark that we typically are in August. Our revenues are coming in over what our expenditures have been. Our cash balance at this point of the year is at the same proportion as it was in August of 2007 based on our total levies and total budget. And so it's pretty much departments are spending in their normal way. I don't see any of the departments that are over, and except what is expected for the higher expenditures that come in the early part of the year. The commissioner's budget has a few red lines.
Wonder who that would be.
And there it is. It's membership dues, which we pay it pretty much at the beginning of the year.
Right.
Some meals and some other travel expenses. But, the bottom line for the budget will be fine. So I guess if there was anything else you had, any questions on that?
Good.
And then we'll move on to the pages that I gave you regarding the budgeting and levy for 2019. The first page, that's what we typically start out with in, looking at where the different funds are, their proposed budgets, what that would take in terms of tax levy to cover it. It looks like it would be a 7.22% cover it. The middle column shows a request that was been added to for a county attorney clerical position. Looking at different options, I'm not sure if the personnel committee has met officially on it. I think there's been just some discussion about it. The sheriff's office has also requested a clerical, but that would be budget neutral because of the permit to carry money that we would be able to utilize to help fund that. So that's kind of the news in a nutshell from all of the budgets that have been submitted.
So the biggest one that went up was human services budget.
Well, in terms of percentage, but they have
Percentage-wise.
the percentage-wise. And part of that is due to the fact that we've moved public health over to there, and we did adjust the levy. That 2019 or 2018 levy does show the shift from the general fund to human services for the amount that was levied last year to cover public health. There's a lot of moving parts in human services, and John did send you an email, just not that long ago or earlier this evening.
Okay.
That kind of talks about it, and the $233,000 that's needed to, say, balance their budget could be a combination of, either levy or fund balance usage. And we can take a look at that. The next page is the budget impact of salaries. And as you can see, of the $929,000 needed to balance the budget, $875,804 comes from the 2% that was worked into the budget, along with the 21.9% health insurance increase.
What was the health insurance?
21.9% premium increase. And the employee does pay a portion of that, but the county assumes a lot of that.
So say your first sentence again, of the 900.
Okay, on this,
So you're
on
saying
this
of the
first page.
929,470.
Yeah, 743.
Okay, so of that, you're saying 875 of that is,
Is for the
okay,
for
I'm following.
payroll,
Gotcha.
salaries and wages. This includes staffing as it is currently. As we look down the road to the changes in the Environmental Services Department, the auditor-treasurer combination, there will be savings there that will reduce the budget need in the salaries department. It won't be $900,000. In the budget, we also have a few capital projects which could be taken from fund balance, and we'll do some review of those with the departments. We have a security update for, I'm not sure if it's all buildings or just the courthouse?
Security for courthouse,
Security for courthouse.
security system.
We have an upgrade for the courtroom equipment that the state is going to pay a good portion of, but we would be looking at about $38,000 to pay for that. I believe
$38,000 for the security system, approximately.
that the county would have to pay, let's see. Yeah, $37,274. The state is picking up $56,000 of the project. So, and I guess this has kind of been agreed upon by Andy that it would be a good thing, since the state is footing a lot of the bill. Newer equipment means less headaches for him. You know, so
Initially, we had to buy it all.
Yeah.
So now that they're coughing up, when the building was new, we bought it all. And so now that we're replacing it, the state's coming in and helping us replace.
Why is that?
And they're trying to go to a common platform across the districts, district courts.
So all 11 counties would probably get a similar type upgrade, similar, will all be the same?
Yeah, they're not updating every courtroom in the same time. They're rotating through to make sure all the platforms are similar. There's been some issues with one county having a certain piece of technology that other counties don't have, and then vice versa, they don't work together. And with remote judges, it's best to have them as similar as possible. And the state is really taking the lead on that, which has been great for us because they can control all of the, make sure all the counties are the same, whereas we can only control ourselves.
Otherwise, it'd be closer to 100,000 if we did it.
Well, initially when we bought it, I don't remember what the system cost, but the fact that they're willing to say, okay, now we're gonna start buying this stuff. I mean, that anything that came from the state is actually great. So the fact it's such a large portion of it, they're paying well over 50%. So it's a good deal.
So then moving on to the document that actually shows each department and the change up or down in their departmental requests. You can see some are up, some are down. We have a new department, the administrator, and this does include all of the salary changes for the departments. So
Does it include the salary changes?
It does.
Okay.
So if you look at, say, the sheriff's office, who is, they have quite a few employees, their budget increase looks pretty high in comparison to the other departments. But I think we figured it's actually 80% of that is salary increases, salary and benefit increases.
80% of the
Of the
114,000 is salary.
Mm-hmm.
Did
So-
they add that many employees?
No, I mean, that's just how many we have, and if you have a department that has more people who take family coverage insurance, that costs us more than the increase in a single coverage plan. So,
Well, 22% increase is
yeah.
extremely
It
significant.
is, you know, especially when we had a
Yeah.
0% increase, a 0% increase, a 2.5% increase, and then 21.9. So we have
Health insurance.
health insurance.
Yeah.
We need to look at our programs and what the offerings to see. We did get some information, so we can look to see where the trends might be, where people are needing.
Well, I don't have the data with me this evening, but I did talk to two of the largest employers in my particular district, and it's not even close to what we offer for
Mhm.
insurance benefits. One pays 0 for family, and
Mhm.
when I said that we pay, was it
95% of
5%.
single coverage and 85% of family coverage.
It was a good thing that there was a carpet that they could fall off their chair on. So
Mhm.
I hope people realize that.
Yeah. So the totals for each of the funds are highlighted, and that ties back to this sheet here, so you can see that. And the last page that I provided was our audited fund balance. We did have our financial report issued. So you'll be receiving your copies in the mail, your book that I'm sure you'll spend a lot of time reading. But this, I basically am just addressing the general fund and what the board has done in terms of fund balance. So we have $6.5 million in our fund balance. And of that, we have those items on top that are specifically restricted by statute or by, pretty much by statute. So that leaves an unassigned fund balance of the $5.351 million. And of that, we designate 50% of our fund balance to cover 6 months, or, make sure we have money that falls in with our tax levy monies that we receive, so that we're not short on cash. The board has also designated the MCIT insurance refunds to be set aside for capital expenditures.
Right.
So that accounts for $880,000. The money that we receive for the historic jail insurance settlement is $731,000. We made 2 reserves. One was for the purchase of the election equipment that happened this year. That was $30,000, and then we have to upgrade our financial system and move it to a different platform, so we designated funds for that, and that is $31,000. We're also looking at a $58,000 budget surplus for this year. So technically, the bottom line, after everything is reserved that the board has considered, we would actually have a negative fund balance of $149,000. Adjusting our 50% of the current levy down to 45% would make that a positive, so we could get by, knowing that too, rather than show this. But that's just the general fund. Road and Bridge has a $6.783 million fund balance, and Human Services $715,000, and I prefer to let them explain to you where and how that might be designated for different projects. In John's email, he did say that the fund balance and combination of levy could be used, so that's where that would be coming from.
I haven't read his email yet. I know we just got it, though.
So that's 2019 budget / levy in a nutshell. I know Teresa was interested in going through, the individual line item budgets and meet with some departments. Is anyone else at this time?
Probably not right now, but pretty soon.
We have to set the preliminary next Tuesday, right?
Next Tuesday is the preliminary.
Yeah.
To exceed amount.
Right, and that can't be increased for our final levy. It can, of course, be distributed differently to the funds. If something would happen to come up where we have to move something around.
Right.
I think we need to have the personnel committee take a look at the areas where we are going to be having different staffing scenarios, so that we can know how much that would contribute to a levy decrease that's needed. And as always, certainly email me questions, call. Can't leave a voicemail, but we'll address that in a minute. Anything else?
I think so.
Nope, not right now. Okay. And we will have a first this evening.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Well, I was going to say, if you want
Yeah.
to stay there, go up there.
Well, slide that thing across the table to you a little bit better. There you
Sorry
go.
about that. Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening.
I am happy to report that I've successfully survived 2 weeks so far, so we're moving along. I've had a great introduction from all of the director heads in all their different areas and going through things. It's been a...
Could you pull that thing a little closer?
I don't know if that's
If you
really
can't
considered.
hear yourself
Go right in front of that red
in
button,
that
you're good to go.
in that speaker system,
We'll try this one.
the rest of the room probably can't hear you either.
Sorry, folks. Still on? Okay. How's that now?
A little closer.
Getting
Now.
better.
Perfect, there you
Okay.
go.
All right, I've had a good introduction from all the folks on the team, and over the last 2 weeks, I've been able to get through most of the divisions and sit down face to face and go through their top issues. Some of the things you heard about earlier have distracted from that a little bit with being involved in some of the arbitrations and the governor's visit and things like that. So it's been an exciting 2 weeks, and I'm very happy and impressed with what I've seen so far. Certainly have a lot of things adding to my to-do list as we go forth. One of those areas, for example, working on the policy updates and doing that, but that's something we will continue to work with as we look forward to strategic planning and some of those activities. There are a couple of projects that I've started jumping into immediately, one of which is the Highway Department building. It's been a long-standing issue, so I'm trying to not reinvent the wheel with that, but also to try and get into the project, get into the understanding of what our actual requirements are, what our needs are, what we've done so far, and so that we can scope that properly and come back to you with a proposal that will be a right fit for the county and what we need now and how we go forward with that. So that is a work in progress, and asks for some time to understand and learn all the nuances to that project. The other project that is of immediate concern, as has been alluded to before, is our phone system. The phone system was, we had planned to upgrade and fix the phone system in 2019. As the system that we have now has gotten older, unfortunately, we've had a fairly catastrophic failure in the system, and as you're aware, our voicemail system is down. And at first glance, you think, okay, voicemail, not a problem. We can send message and things. But tied to that voicemail system is also the calling tree and the ability to, everyone's favorite, press 1 for this, press 2 for that, and that system is tied to that as well. And so it is hampering our ability to support our customers, the people of the county, as they are less able to get a hold of us, and we can respond to them quickly. The fix that we could put in place right now would be about a $5,000 fix to replace a box and take a few weeks to go. But it would band-aid an old system that we were getting ready to replace anyway. The team had already done the work and looked at a couple of options for upgrading the system in next year. And those two options both came out relatively budget neutral. The first option was a little bit cheaper, but basically it was upgrading an old system to a less old system. The second option brings us to a modern system, a voice over IP system, on par with what is in the building next door. Would tie in well with it. It would be remotely managed. It would be just an upgrade across the board, and would take us out much farther into the future with upgradability, sustainability, and usability. That program, that solution would cost us about $60,000 for the thing, and again, I mentioned we were already looking to budget that in there. One of the advantages of that system is that it would actually come out at our monthly fees to the phone company would go down by about $500-600 a month. So there's a little bit more upfront cost to it, and of course, no timing is great for putting in a new system on short notice. But there would be a long-term savings and a long-term improvement in service. And so I'd like to go forward with getting Andy moving on that project.
And you said, so it'll tie into the courthouse, so I mean, as far as transferring calls, doing things like that,
Yes.
is what you're talking about?
Yep. Yeah, they're already on a voice over IP system.
Sure.
The two have been made to talk to each other, but with this improvement would work better
Now,
together.
Is there a lot of infrastructure that's got to go on in here to get to that point? I mean, as far as the phone lines that are running throughout the walls and stuff are obviously okay. It's mainly phones on the desk that need to be replaced.
Yeah, so it would physically it would be a change in the desks, in the desk phones on each desk, and that's the bulk of the purchase cost is buying new handset units.
I see.
It would ride over the internet system, so rather than plugging into the phone line, it plugs into an IP line, and there are some limitations in this building that poor Andy is going to get stuck trying to fix, because this building, of course, does not have that many extra and excess lines. There are workarounds for that with daisy chaining the equipment and such, but he'll have his hands full trying to make it all fit
Sure.
on the current structure. But right now, no internal structure needs to be upgraded.
What about the Meyer building? Does that change anything?
All of the phone systems will actually come back to one central phone system, so they're all tied together. And that is actually a hosted solution through Ascentec.
Okay.
So 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, we had actually a phone system at the Meyer building that opened in smoke. And we had ended up buying some handsets and we tied them back to this phone system. Well, now this phone system has to get replaced, so it's going to change the handsets throughout the county.
So you're talking both here and the Meyer building when we're talking this?
We're actually going to need to replace every handset in the county.
Even over at the courthouse?
Over in the CKC. Correct.
I mean, yeah, that's what I mean, sorry.
Correct. Now, a phone system has a lifespan of anywhere from 7 to 10 years. Our phone system has been Band-Aid, bought little pieces here and there over the years. I can't tell you exactly how old our system is just because some parts of it are newer than others. The main system that is in this building is well over 10 years old, and we've gotten along pretty well. One of the main reasons that we need to change this is userability, and as cell phone technology becomes more and more predominant, everyone has a cell phone, all these calls come from cell phones, we've been having issues with calls getting through. I think Commissioner Miller's an experienced time, but his call when we get through. This will also help alleviate those issues, some of those issues. Another issue is when a phone call is made that gets to the county, they hit that calling tree. Well, sometimes cell phone carriers don't always pass the digit that you want, so press 1 to go to this. Well, that 1 isn't getting passed. Also, going with this hosted PBX, those issues should be resolved as well too. So there's a lot of benefit to moving to this new system, and as he indicated, the cost, I mean, in the long term, it's going to be cheaper than just replacing our current phone system with the standard Panasonic system that we have. So a lot of pros.
And there's this, you said something about budgeted for next year, is what it was budgeted for?
I've been working with Carol to get numbers that's what prompted this whole operation, was to actually get proposals together so that 2019 would come around, we'd be able to put it in the budget. But due to the system failure that we've had, it's put it to the front burner, and I believe Carol's been working out the methods of which to pay for this.
In the fund balance worksheet, that $880,000 that's earmarked for capital improvements, that would be where we would take this.
How long does it take to get this up and running?
Well, unfortunately, there is a little bit of downtime. We'll be running around crazy like, but ACE feels that we can have this entire project completed in 4 weeks. So we're going to be working diligently to get it done in 4 weeks. ACE is moving it to the front burner if we go with this solution, and we will as well. So we will make it happen.
Is what it is.
So was it you that had the problem, was the system?
Yeah.
One would have thought it was
all my
Jack's
fault.
Keep your mouth shut.
Yeah. Why was I calling?
Right.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
I think we have to move forward.
Yeah.
We don't really have a choice.
Do you need anything from us on this, a resolution or anything, or is this already going forward?
Unless there's objection, we'll go forward with it and fit it into this year's budget.
That's fine.
Carol work her
Okay.
magic.
Do you need a motion
No.
to approve?
No.
Okay.
That's all I have for you this evening, unless you have any questions or tasks for me.
You're headed to the airport, are you not?
I am, yes.
Yeah. Safe
Going
trip.
overseas?
No, my wife is returning from dropping our daughter at college. So.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, you're
She's
going to pick up.
overseas.
I was thinking you were going over to meet him. Okay,
No.
I get what you're saying, going to go
He's-
get her. Okay, we're on the same page.
Not going to London.
I was gonna say, oh, that'd be fun.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Action items, approved claims, human service and license center disbursements, and continue oh yeah, well, we better do that first, and then the discussion on the vet term.
I would move to approve the claims in Human Service and License Center.
Second?
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carried. Now, Jack, you wanted to talk about the Veterans Home appropriation.
Yes, I had asked to have this put on the agenda. We discussed this briefly, and I think we were all taken aback by wherever it came from, a request for the Veterans Home from Houston County, a donation of $50,000. And no, but at the AMC meeting I was at, I spoke with Dwayne Bakke from Fillmore County, where the home is planned, and he said he understood there was some anger or resentment from Houston County, and I said, no, not at all. We were just questioning, why we would be looked at for that kind of a investment. And he said that looking at what other counties have done and the way it's situated at this point, a $5,000 would be fine. Nothing would be okay, but they certainly would appreciate something. And timing is rather important because they'll get a match if they get it in a timely fashion. So with that in mind, I asked this to be put on, and I would like to, and we'll make a motion that Houston County donate $5,000 to the Veteran Home Fund for the Veterans Home in Preston.
I will second that.
My only question on that is if we can use the word donate or if we have to use the word appropriate.
It's an appropriation.
I think it's an
We had quite a
appropriation.
discussion at my meetings, because I was joint meetings this week too, and Freeborn did 15,000, and Fillmore did 350,000, and I said, are you levying this money or what? No, they're using their fund balance for it, so they're not gonna levy it. I told them we were still in discussion with it too, but.
And if you recall at the, I think it was the last meeting when we had some representatives from veteran organizations here, so and I guess at some point, if we feel flush with cash, maybe we could do more, but at this point, I think 5,000 is appropriate.
They want that so that they can get the matching federal
Correct.
funds.
Yeah.
That's really important to them.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I would have liked 10,000 personally, but that's fine. Motion's fine.
Okay, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Okay, consent agenda. You've got several correspondence and appreciation of service there. And
I'll
that's
make a
all.
motion to
So,
approve the consent agenda.
Moved. Well, we'll, you got who moved and who seconded on that?
I'll second.
Okay. Fine. Moved and seconded. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carried. Okay, discussion items.
Want me to start?
You can start.
I had quite a few meetings, of course, especially since we're doing Scott's too. But one of them was, that Jack was at also, was that flood meeting in Hoka with Governor Dayton, which they did a PowerPoint showing the damage, and you did go check it out too. So that was a good meeting. They're moving forward on it. I did go to the La Crescent Township meeting because they had concerns about bike lane markings on County 6, which I talked to our engineer about, and County 6 is going to be redone in 2020. And then I also reminded them to make sure they were there for the state meeting the next day with the county, the city of Hoka, and 12 townships that had damage for getting the 75% reimbursement for their bills. So I did go to that one too. Then I had an EMS meeting, and state funding is very down. That's why I'm really surprised that Andy's so good at getting state funding for it. But now they're, some of the counties, because it's all volunteer services for EMS people, you know, first responders, but they have to pay quite a bit for their continuing education, that some of the counties in our region are considering some appropriation for emergency medical services to help them train their first responders. So we might want to talk about that a little bit when we do our appropriation discussion. It's getting to, you know, we used to get seatbelt money, well, that's way down now. And the state, we're looking for other sources of funding, like distracted driving, that kind of thing. But state legislature hasn't done anything with that yet, but talk. They're all for it, but they haven't funded anything. So we might want to consider, at least for the EMS in Houston County, putting something toward it, you know. Then I had workforce development, and because one of the people had to leave early, we didn't have a quorum, so it was all information. One of the things that I was kind of surprised at, we always get a list of the businesses that are going out of business, and you know that big cob of corn in Rochester, which was Libby, they're cutting all their canned services. That's because nobody's buying canned vegetables anymore. I know, that's a big one, about 150 employees. and that division, so that was kind of interesting. We had discussion about the VA, and we had discussion about everybody's working on their budgets and levy. Fillmore was looking at 5 to 8%, but they're still trying to work that out. So everybody was busy getting ready to do that preliminary levy. There's a census conference webinar on Thursday, and I'm already going to a CJC meeting at the same time, so I don't know if anybody wants to get up and involved in that, I guess.
That's when?
It's Thursday, 12 to 1, and it's a webinar with the State Census Bureau.
Oh, I saw your email.
Yeah, so if anybody can do that, that would be good. And then we got our little thing in the mail for our AMC annual meeting, so I quickly got hold of Michelle to at least get us hotel rooms and had her get 4 rooms. Did you, and you were gonna do that?
Well, funny thing, Donna helped with that.
I know. Was she able to get them in the same place
To
as?
my knowledge, yes.
Oh, good.
They were made. We do need to address who will be attending and who not, so that we can release any rooms that we won't be using.
Because there will be a penalty if we don't get rid of the rooms
Exactly,
we won't be
there will be a
using.
stiff
And I
penalty.
know we ran into problems last year, Jack. Remember, your room wasn't reserved.
Well, they said this year that where they have moved, there's enough rooms for everyone, so there won't be
That's
going around
always
the-
been a major
yeah,
problem, so.
so.
Anyway, right now, we have 4 rooms tentatively reserved, but we need to get back to them as to who is going and who isn't.
What's the date?
December 3rd, wait a minute, should be right
December
in.
3rd and 4th.
Yeah. We'd probably need the rooms on the 3rd, no, second and third.
For the second.
And third.
Check out on the 4th.
Okay. Sounds good.
And it looks like if you decide there is early bird registration discount at $25 per person. So,
Okay.
we definitely want to
Get that early.
that before the 2nd of November.
Okay.
So at least we have some rooms. I was concerned because we have in St. Cloud been in 3 different hotels.
They mentioned
Bussing
that
it.
that was a big issue with a lot of counties because they were unable to get decent accommodations.
And that should do most of my report.
Meetings wise, we kind of covered everything. Big thing was what was going on in Yucatan. Dealing with that and dealing with the issue with the nursing home in Houston. Those were kind of brought up and resolved, so that was talked about.
Okay.
The one thing though that was brought up that I guess I wanted to discuss, the letters that we hand out for people when they retire, I have gotten word from a few people that feel it is less than,
Grateful.
yes. So, we should look at kind of revamping that and making it not so generic and bland when somebody retires or resigns, to have
little more-
a nice exit letter
A
instead
little
of
more personal.
Yes, so whoever we need. What's that?
Taken for action, we'll take your letter.
Yeah, however that needs to go, we need to get that a
That'd
little
be a
bit
good
nicer.
idea.
So, other than that, that's about it.
Okay. Fred and I met in Houston for floodplain update. I'll let you. No, it's there's a lot to it. They did new mapping, and when the information comes out, I think the important thing for the public to get out of this is that if you get notified that you are indeed in the floodplain, you need to act within 30 days as far as flood insurance. If one fails to do that, then the state will assign the flood insurance, and it'll be at a higher cost than what one could do on one's own. So that's important. Otherwise, there wasn't a great deal of change in what was floodplain and what is now designated, just some minor adjustments. But Aaron was there, and he's on top of it, and there are other city officials there. So I think the people who needed to hear it and need to be up on what to do and not to do in terms of it when people have an issue, I think they've got those bases covered. Then I was at the Human Health and Human Service Policy meeting for AMC, and a wealth of issues that it's one of those things where you wish you had money to fund all of them because they all have merit, but the way the state budgets, there's just not money for all the wants and needs. So what AMC does is, after a couple of lengthy, intense meetings, narrows it down to 3 priorities to have AMC take forward to the legislature and press for passage. The priorities that they came up with were to maintain the state's health care provider tax. And this is important to every county because it's money that, again, the state passes on to counties for various expenses. What happened is they when it was approved, and it's money, for instance, that supports the SHIP program, which everybody's been very positive about. But when they proposed it about, I think it was 9 years ago, they gave a sunset date. And unless they change their mind, it's going to sunset and the money's going to disappear. So that was the #1 priority to push to have the state maintain that provider tax. Second priority was support the state's responsibility to fund mental health services, including the state-operated services, and eliminating cost shifts to counties for hospitalization and children's residential treatment services. Again, some very passionate speeches, I guess you could say, or people are that work with these children and the needy are passionate about it, and just say we need to spend money on this type of issue. And thirdly, invest in strategies that strengthen support services and early intervention activities to promote child well-being. And again, they're kind of all related, but they each have their own particular focus also. But the third one was particularly promoted as being most helpful if these children can be helped at an early age rather than let the problems fester and then at some point it's much more difficult to deal with them. So that's pretty much it. I had a EDA meeting, but Fred was there too, and I'll let him expound on that.
I'll start with the local water meeting. You see the budget on that. There's not a lot of change there. We are hoping that the One Watershed, One Plan excuse me, program will help us out quite a bit there. And I think it will, having been to those meetings on the Southeast Water Board. The One Watershed, One Plan will be an increasingly important conduit for state funds into local water plans. And I think that will be a benefit to us. I hope so. Got some bad news on this meeting on Wednesday with the EDA. Our EDA director, Courtney, will no longer be with us. She's gotten a different job with CETA. Her basic employer has decided that she would be more important to them someplace else. And so they have replaced her with a nice young fellow whose name I do not have on any of the pieces of paper I have with me tonight. And I'm hoping that Jack has that name written down somewhere.
First name's Bryce.
Thank you.
I don't recall his last name, but he does come to us with some.
Bryce Lang.
Thank you. He does come with some experience, and we'll have Courtney kind of easing him into the position.
Yeah.
You know, and I think Fred would agree that we've been extremely pleased with Courtney.
Yeah.
And she's well deserved of her promotion, and she's not going to just forget about us, but her time here will not be what it was.
No. I don't know when her actual end date is, but I'm pretty sure toward the end of this month.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And I've spent quite a bit of time over the last 2 weeks in various meetings on the Highway Department building project, and you heard Administrator Babinski talk about that, and I think we're making pretty good progress at this point. Hopefully we'll have a bit more concrete information to report in a week or two. Okay? Now, closing public comment. How many folks do we have that want to do that, so we have some idea of, okay, fine. Who wants to be first?
Good evening, Commissioners.
Evening.
My name is Julie Rank. I had talked last month, and I'm a resident of Caledonia Township and a financial worker in the Human Services offices of 25 years. I'd like to share a coworker's letter with you that was not able to meet here tonight, and I just would like to read it as if I was her writing the letter. My name is Lindsay Standel, and I have been a social worker in Houston County for 3 years. I have the honor of working with individuals with disabilities in our communities. My mission is to assist individuals in living the kinds of lives they want to live, overcoming the barriers and challenges they face. My coworkers and I assist individuals with finding resources to help them secure homes, jobs, and recreational activities, amongst many other things that contribute to safe living, meaningful lives in their communities. We also continue to work with individuals many times for the duration of their lives to maintain the services necessary to continue to live the way they want. It probably goes without saying that there is stress and crisis, as we often are a first point of contact for individuals in times of great need or difficulty. But there are also times of great honor and joy as we watch individuals we have worked with achieve things they never thought possible or increase their independence and learn new skills. It is important for the individuals we serve to have consistency with the people who are involved in their lives in order to establish meaningful relationships and trust. Often it can take quite some time for individuals to become comfortable enough with someone to share their vulnerabilities and struggles. Houston County is fortunate to have many passionate and dependable employees serving their residents. Respectfully submitted, Lindsay Stundell.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Hey.
My name is Michelle Mossman. I work for Houston County as an employee, and I'm also a member of the local union. Before I read this letter, I want to comment that I have had the privilege of working with Lindsay, the letter that was just read to you, and she's incredible. She does amazing work. The letter I'm going to share with you tonight is from another employee and union member who could not be here this evening. Dear Commissioners, my name is Teresa Gavin Kubitz. I have lived my entire life in Houston County, and now I live in the town of Houston with my husband and 3 sons. I have worked for the county for almost 18 years. I love my job with the Veterans Service Office because I get the opportunity to help our veterans and their families. Veterans and family members come to the office unaware of the benefits they are entitled to, and I help them sign up for VA health care, widow benefits, burial markers, burial benefits, and so much more. My experience and knowledge are important in helping veterans. Thank you very much for letting me tell you about myself and my position I have with the county. Sincerely, Teresa Gavin Kubitz.
Thank you.
I am Diane Schultz, and I am a Caledonia resident, and I am a Houston County employee for many years as well. I get the privilege of reading a letter from 4 of my co-workers. It falls upon a similar topic that you had mentioned regarding the needs of the children. It fell right into that. Dear County Board members, our children's mental health team made up of Haley Johnson, Erin Koniak, Mallory Van Lin, and Tessa Deaconbach feel it is of high importance that we relay to you what we find valuable about our positions here at Houston County Human Services, and more importantly, why our service is beneficial to the residents of Houston County. As a children's mental health social worker, our duty is to serve children that have been diagnosed with severe emotional disturbances and support their families. We coordinate and monitor appropriate services with the goal to improve functioning in all environments of their mental health systems. We drive to build strong relationships with schools, mental health professionals, community supports, and our clients' families to ensure these children get quality person-centered care. We love our jobs because we see the benefits of the mental health services that are being provided in Houston County. Mental health services strengthen the overall health and well-being of our community. If you would like to learn more about children's mental health case management and why we love our jobs, please feel free to contact any one of us. Thank you for your time. The Houston County Human Services Children's Mental Health Team.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I didn't see anybody else asking for time on closing public comment, so I assume there isn't any. And we have a need for the final motion of the evening.
I would move to adjourn.
Second.
Moved and seconded for adjournment. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, we are officially adjourned. Thank you.